With Build 42 officially releasing this year, now is a great time to go over all of the new features that will be in this massive game-changing update. The devs recently posted an official list that shows every single one of the new additions coming to Project Zomboid, so we will be getting this information directly from the source. Before talking about the 20 specific features in the update, they outline 5 main things that Build 42 aims to do for the game. The first thing is to give the late game more content. As of right now, if you survive long enough and manage to secure and stock up a safe house, you will probably start running out of things to do very quickly. In Build 42, there will be many more objectives once you reach this point, such as things to build or craft. The second thing, which sort of ties into the first one, is that they are going to provide a way for multiplayer servers to run indefinitely. This will allow you and your friends to survive well into the quote-unquote Alexandria years, which will feel much different than the chaotic beginning of the outbreak. The third one is to provide more community cooperation for multiplayer and also for when NPCs are added in Build 43. By this, they mean that they'll be adding more interesting professions and activities to contribute to a survivor community, as well as reshaping how the skill and XP systems work to make it so that it will be harder to master everything and more efficient to just specialize in one thing so that each player on a server has a role to play. The fourth thing is that Build 42 will create a framework for players who want to focus more on building and player interactions instead of zombie survival. They will be implementing a bunch of mechanics that will make a good foundation for all kinds of varied survival experiences outside of the usual killing zombies and looting. These foundations, especially with mods, are going to turn Project Zomboid into the ultimate survival sandbox game, which leads us into the final main purpose of Build 42. The fifth major goal of Build 42 is to let the modders unleash their full potential. The new crafting stuff alone will provide so much for the modders to play with, but that's also not to mention all of the new world generation, survival mechanics, and other things coming that will truly turn Project Zomboid into a blank canvas for the modding community. Now, with the 5 main goals of Build 42 covered, let's get into each specific feature that will be in the update. First, technical improvements have allowed them to increase the maximum height for buildings to 32 stories rather than the current 8. There will also now be basements that can reach up to 32 floors deep. The basements will have random spawns in buildings that can fit them, and the frequency of their spawns can be changed in the sandbox settings. You will be able to find all kinds of things in these basements like bunkers, panic rooms, and even stuff like Wayne's World sets. Speaking of the technical improvements in Build 42, the second feature of this update that they list has to do with just that. Among the vast amounts of improvements they have made, some of the most notable ones are the more efficient chunk caching, the improved view cone, and better and more accurate interactions between 2D and 3D objects. The third major feature, which also goes along with the technical improvements, is the new lighting system. This new lighting allows for light to bounce off walls, leak through windows, and actually cast shadows based on where the light source is located, effectively creating a much more realistic look for the lighting in the game. Now we're starting to get into the more juicy content of Build 42. The fourth feature we are getting is a whole new crafting system complete with all new machines and methods. Some of these new methods include pottery, metal forging, stoneworking, and brewing. There will be crafting tiers ranging from primitive stone furnaces all the way to advanced electronic machines. Also, basically anything you would expect to be blacksmithed can be smithed, and the craft versions of these things will look more rugged than something manufactured like you can find around the world. On top of this, to go with the new crafting methods, there will now be clay and stone walls, new wooden walls and other constructions, food preservation methods, drying racks, shelters, and tons more. Fifth, we will finally have real animals in the game. There is a whole bunch of different animals coming in Build 42, like sheep, chickens, pigs, cows, rats, rabbits, deer, turkeys, and raccoons. Animals can be used for items like meat, leather, eggs, and milk, but can also be hunted in the extensive new hunting system. You can track wild animals by their footprints and droppings. The animals will have realistic behaviors and movements throughout the map, and seeing any of these critters wander by during your playthrough, whether it be a deer in the woods or a rat in an old abandoned building, will surely add so much to the immersion. The sixth main feature of Build 42 is the hugely expanded and improved farming. Farming tools are now much quicker and easier to use. An example they give us is when you have a hoe equipped and are in the combat stance, you can use the action key to dig a furrow instead of having to use the right-click menu. There is a ton of new crops and even herbs now, and the way that they grow is more true to life than it was before. They will actually take a realistic amount of time to grow, and each crop will have their preferred growing seasons. The new crops include corn, peas, garlic, barley, flax, hemp, as I've said before, unfortunately just the industrial kind, hops, rye, sugar beets, sunflowers, tobacco, and the various new herbs like rosemary. Snails and slugs will be new garden pests, but you will be able to use commercial snail killer to deal with those guys, and rosemary plants and chickens will help keep them away too. Also, you will regularly need to pull weeds around your crops. Some of the crops can even be used as seeds themselves, namely potatoes, onions, and garlic. On top of all of this, even houseplants are now living and will need to be cared for in a similar way to your farm crops. This is yet another thing that will add to the immersion, as you will be able to see that a lot of time has passed when all of the houseplants in neighborhoods and malls have wilted. Feature number 7 of Build 42 is all of the new locations being added to Knox County. There will be 3 new towns, lots of new smaller map locations, and updates to the existing map. The 8th feature is the new dynamic music. They have used stems and variations of the soundtrack we know and love to make the music adapt to what is going on in the game. There is a music intensity parameter that will increase or decrease depending on the situation. This will make for appropriate music in the calm moments and for the hectic moments, which all flows together. I'll play the audio from this video so that you can hear what they are talking about. Continuing on with another sound-related feature, 9th, we have new vocals for your characters. There is now voice acting for coughing, sneezing, breathing heavily, and even for shouting. There will be 4 male and 4 female voices that you can choose from when creating your character. This will be great for playing on multiplayer when you hear that you and all your friends' characters have slightly different voices. Again, I'll play the audio from this video so you can hear some of them. The 10th thing we have coming our way in Build 42 is new clothing, containers, and other various items. There is a new SWAT uniform, football gear, various new masks, and tons more clothing. Something cool about these new clothes is that things like shoulder pads and shin guards can be worn on your left or right side interchangeably. Each piece of clothing also has its own definitions now, which means that everything you are wearing will be visible and the look of it will change to fit what you have on. Helmets and masks will now slightly affect your vision cone and hearing. And there is also a variety of new tents and now sleeping bags which can be rolled up and attached to your backpack. Feature number 11 is fishing getting a complete rework, including a ton of new mechanics that make it much more fun. You'll see splashes on top of the water to indicate that there's fish there. The more splashes you see, the more fish there are to catch. Where the fish spawn on the map and in what quantity is procedurally generated, and part of the new fishing system is finding the best fishing spot. The fish will react to loud noises in the world, so if, for instance, you fire a gun nearby, you won't be able to catch anything in that spot for a certain amount of time. You can also craft chum, which will attract lots of fish. And as you can see here, we have a variety of different fish in all shapes and sizes. The 12th thing that Build 42 will bring us is improved Discord integration. Chat within Discord rooms can be properly linked to the in-game chat, admins can use commands to trigger timed events and gameplay changes, and we can have admin-controlled radio and TV scripts. These features are going to be great for roleplay servers. There is so much that Project Zomboid server operators will be capable of soon. 13th is the various UI changes, with the most notable being an official mod manager to easily load and save your custom mod load orders. There is also now support for 4K resolution monitors. Next, one of my personal favorite additions coming in Build 42, the 14th feature is that there will be procedurally generated wilderness on the edge of the Project Zomboid map, which spans for a nearly infinite distance. This of course means that there will be no more impassable border on the edge of the map, and instead you can now explore deep into the wild and build a fortress far away from what used to be society. This feature will also allow us to generate a completely blank wilderness map so that we can test our survival skills in the great outdoors without the help of looting. It will also give us and the modders more of a sandbox for all kinds of things. Next, we have the 15th feature, which is the new fluid mechanics. A new fluid transfer system will allow you to make all kinds of mixtures, kind of like how the cooking is in the game currently. They have made it easy for modders to add in their own liquids and gave all kinds of categories and properties to the various liquids, such as flammable, alcoholic, poisonous, etc. Now you can spike your barrel of whiskey with some delicious bleach. Along with all this, they have added new fluid containers for all your drinking needs. Continuing on, 16th, we have an all-new weapon parts system. Now, some weapons will have separate head and handle durabilities as well as sharpness if it has a blade. Because of this, the upkeep of your weapons is more immersive. You can still use things like duct tape and glue to fix things, but you can now also carve a new handle from wood. Sharpness affects damage and critical hits, and can be replenished with a whetstone. Dull axes will also take longer to chop down trees and will also lose durability faster. All of these new durabilities are affected with the usage of your weapon or tool, with the sharpness going down the fastest, followed by the handle condition and then the head. For hatchets, when the handle breaks, the head will actually go flying. For larger tools, you might end up using the handle as a club if the head breaks while you're in combat. And for spears, the tip can break off lodged into a zombie. The 17th thing in Build 42 is going to be the new challenge map called Many Years Later. This, of course, is just what it sounds like and is a map that places you many years into the apocalypse instead of just at the beginning. You can expect more scarce loot and a much more run-down Knox County than what you've come to know. 18th is a bunch of new things that add to the environmental storytelling of the game. There's going to be readable flyers and newspaper articles that may point you in the direction of a nearby building you can loot. Similar to that, there will be the vehicle liveries that are location-specific, so you'll find cars for local businesses in the areas that they belong. There will also be various titles for books, new TV and radio stations, and annotated maps. On top of all this, there's going to be a ton of random world stories and hundreds of new decoration items. The 19th feature coming to the game is a new cleaning system that is more in-depth and realistic, which will allow you to make that abandoned building you've decided to shack up in sparkly clean. The 20th and final aspect of Build 42 is the thousands of bug fixes, typo corrections, quality of life changes, networking improvements, and much, much more. Alright, so that was basically everything coming to Project Zomboid in the Build 42 update that is dropping this year. If most of you couldn't already tell, this update is going to be absolutely huge and probably the biggest one that the game has received yet. There is so much being added that Project Zomboid is going to feel like a brand new game, and we surely won't be able to imagine life before all of these amazing features were brought to us. What's the part of Build 42 that you're most excited about? And is there anything that you dislike about this update? Let everyone know in the comments below.